Now moving towards the next actually is the classification of dental plaque. Let's start in Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Basically, either the dental plaque is actually supragingival or subgingival based on the position of teeth surface towards the gingival margins. Okay, supragingival plaque is actually above the gingival margins. Okay, like if here this, so it will be somehow yeah. Okay, here when in direct contact with the gingival margin, it is referred as marginal plaque. It is in direct contact with the gingival margin, so it is known as marginal plaque also, and supragingival plaque above the margins or direct contact with the gingival margins or marginal gingiva, so it is known as marginal plaque. Supragingival is below the gingival margins between the tooth and the gingival pocket epithelium. Now here is a structure of this is dental plaque. Here this is actually basically supragingival. Sorry. Okay. This is actually the plaque. Okay. Now we have actually the plaque classification of the subgingival plaque actually, which is actually tooth attached plaque, unattached plaque, epithelial associated plaque, bacterial within the connective tissue, and bacteria on the bone surface. Okay, supragingival plaque is basically stratified organization of multi-layered accumulation of bacterial morphophytes. Okay, so they are saying as the plaque becomes mature, it develops distant layers. Okay, first of all, it is actually a stratified organization in stratas, but multi-layer and accumulation of bacteria, different type of bacteria with different size and shape has been accumulated in different layers. Okay, then basically it has actually tooth surface layer and the outer surface, okay, of the plaque. So the tooth surface layer is basically the inner layer. The inner layer basically is the gram positive cocci short rods, okay, where the outer surface of the plaque, which is actually the outer layer, consists of the gram negative bacteria like rods, filaments, parochides, okay, on the outer side of the mature plaque. Subgingival microbiota differs in composition from the supragingival. Why? Because subgingival microbiota, because there is local availability of products, blood products. The blood products are more near to that. There is low redox potential, which means there is low oxygen, so it produces anaerobic environment. And some gingival plaque has tooth associated and soft tissue associated part also. Now moving towards the tooth associated is basically saying that clavicle location, filaments, microorganisms dominate, but cocci and rods also. And the plaque is dominated by gram positive rods and cocci on the clavicle location, including the asthmatis, sanguinis, actinomyces aureus, and A. Nesilondi, and Eubacterium species. Okay. However, in the deeper parts of the pocket, the filaments become fewer in number, and in the apical portion, they seems visually absent, because all the bacteria cannot survive the anaerobic conditions, and the nutrient availability also changes, and the host response also occurs. So the very dominant bacteria we see is actually spirochetes, gram negative anaerobes like Porphyromonas gingivalis and Provatella intermedia, etc. Okay, the apical part of the plaque mass is separated from the junctional epithelium by a layer of host of leukocytes, and the bacterial population of this apical tooth associated with the region shows an increased concentration of gram negative rod. So they are saying the leukocytes layer actually is a barrier between the plaque and host tissues. In the leukocytes, we all know that basically it contains of the immune cells like polymorphonuclear neutrophils and neutrophils and also lymphocytes and macrophages. Okay, then basically the bacterial population at the apical tooth associated plaque is basically they contain more gram negative bacteria like Physobacterium nucleatum, Provatera intermedia, Porphyromonas gingivalis, because they can actually tolerate anaerobic condition and they are actually associated with the tissue destruction. So means the apical edge of the subgenral plaque is not in direct contact with the junction epithelium actually, and the tooth associated apical region consists of large amount of gram negative bacteria because they cause destruction of periodontal tissues. Okay, now soft tissues is basically the layers of microorganisms actually facing the soft tissues layer of the definite intermicrobial matrix or contain primarily gram-negative rods, cocci as well as large number of filaments and flagellated rods and spirochetes. Host tissue cells like WBC epithelial cells also found in this region. Bacteria found within the host tissues such as in the soft tissues within the epithelial cells as well as the dental tubules. The composition of some gingival plaque depends on the pocket depth, of course.